guys, hello, namaskar, my name is Craig. I'll try to be slow. I know there's a tech issue. Okay. Today I want to share my thoughts on how spirituality is a problem area. I'll move to the second slide. I'll go with the melting pot's theme. So the idea is spirituality as a problem is what I want to focus on. It's not just India's problem, but of our entire world. Next slide. Why identify spirituality as a problem? As a medical doctor, I see this as a problem from a clinical perspective. Next slide. Once, Okay, sure.
Hello. Yeah, I thought I'll set the context for Dr. Parameshwaran's speech. I think there are two layers of high interest to audience here. One layer is the work himself that he is doing. The work is on using spirituality across all theologies and make it a part of medicinal practice. So that content in itself is of great interest to many people. So he is studying different belief schools, different religions, different theologies, and trying to get those practices into medicine. So that's the content part. However, the other part I would like the universities to stay connected to is the nature of research that he's doing, which is he's actually collaborating with 4 or 5 different professors across different universities. He's at Berkeley. He's working with someone in Sanskrit University, someone with Jamia Millia, and a few other universities, where all of them are coming together and creating a compelling course curriculum, which will then move into Berkeley and the world over. So there are 2 levels of interest. One, of course, is the content. The second is the nature of research, how 5 or 6 people across geography, across universities are connecting on one subject enabled by Wayne Connect to impact the world. So there's a 2-level case study that's going on. So I'll give it to Dr. Parameshwaran to take it forward.
Yeah, I guess that was Gopi. Gopi, thank you. Hey, so I'll thanks for priming up. I'll touch on all those topics more with the questions if there's a question and answer session. Otherwise, I'll do it by myself. So, but at this point, I mean, probably how many? 4th slide, I guess. Or should I restart all over? Okay. So I said why identify spirituality as a problem. And when I said spirituality as a problem, I will tell you why a couple of slides later. But here, as a medical doctor, I see spirituality as a problem from a clinical perspective. So once I find clinically that's a problem, the solution that I should offer should also be clinical. Clinical solutions for all medical problems are always research-driven. Next slide. Again, how spirituality is India's problem. If you notice, I want to stress saying that spirituality as a problem area, it's not India-specific. So I will move away from being India-specific in my talk too. If you notice, I'm calling spirituality as a problem area because spirituality per se is not a problem, but lack of it is a problem. In this slide, I may be sounding a little philosophical. I said spirituality is a problem because it stops binding or connects two individuals. It is a problem clinically because it also disconnects the human spirit from its physical body. I don't care if these sound philosophical, but I have answers to that, and I will wait for your questions to answer what I mean by what I say. When we say lack of spirituality is a problem, I mean we lack, next slide, sorry. I mean we lack an understanding of what is spirituality. As a psychiatrist, I understood that as a problem because my patients were not getting cured. Next slide. How spiritual depletion is a medical problem. Now, to understand how lack of spirituality is a problem, we need to know what spirituality is. For that, we need to define what is spirit or what is soul, what is spirituality, etc. As of now, we do not have any definition of spirituality for clinical care and research purposes. Though there are a number of research publications on how religion and spirituality influences human health and diseases. One can go Google up and see PubMed. In the PubMed, you can put a keyword called religion or spirituality, and you'll see thousands of publications. But we still do not have a definition of spirituality. More recently, next slide, in the last 2 decades, clinical researchers have started to develop spiritual exercises-based clinical therapies. Clinical exercises are like yoga or meditation, etc. These therapies have been very effective, but they have not been able to develop an understanding of what is spirituality, let alone developing a semblance of an independent scientific discipline of medical spirituality. As you notice, somewhere in the middle of the slide, I have mentioned clinical chaplaincy department. This is a fledgling department, also called as pastoral care. It is formed of religious professionals, pujaris, pandits, imams, etc. Their spiritual care is very effective. Cutting long story short, a clinical care process fits perfectly neuroscience framework of interpersonal care. And through this interpersonal neuroscience research, we can understand the spiritual theological constructs such as spirit, spirituality, etc. These are basic building blocks of a scientific spiritual academic discipline. Next slide, please. Now, I know the last slide I have cut a very, very long story, very, very short. I will have many questions from you on that. I'll be ready for them. But now I want to move to share my thoughts on what should be the next step for us finding a solution to the original problem that I specified, problem of spirituality in India. We need to build a research-based pilot training program, which is happening in USA now. I want to create a parallel corresponding comparative research project in India. This project I am planning to conduct in two centers in India. One is in AIMS, All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Delhi. Second thing is MHANS, that's a matter, in Bangalore. So the research project is going to be a comparative study of two centers, inter-university or international research, with AIMS and MHANS in India versus GTU, Graduate Theological Union, and UC Berkeley in USA. The predicted start period of this project is going to be June 2018, which will complete in 2019 end. Following that, we will have a full-fledged psychiatry training program. My aim is that to be in. Having said that, I know I had been keeping many people waiting on more perks. This slide is for those who may not be greatly thrilled by a rather philosophical presentation, though I have created all spiritual research ideas in the field of medicine. There are some among us, most importantly me, who need hardcore evidence on spiritual research and medicine. Next slide, please. Sorry, I didn't say next slide for many of my past slides. I am probably in the third or fourth last, so bear with me. Yes, yeah, correct. For them who are interested in more evidence-based stuff, here are my couple of statements. When we develop spirituality as a clinical discipline, it has to be evidence-based. One of the evidence is neuroscience. When I say neuroscience, this is based on imaging studies like PET scan, MRI, SPECT, etc. But one another evidence-based approach, especially for clinical chaplaincy, will be through CHI devices. CHI are computer interface devices. I'll not go deep into it here. I'll end it here and rather take more questions and see if I can answer and be more clearer there. Thank you so much. Do I have any questions?
Just a minute, sir.
Professor, good evening. This is Lokesh from Mysuru, Karnataka.
Hi, Lokesh.
The observation what I made is this spirituality is more important in most of the Western countries than in India. Of course, I do agree, Indians are also getting agitated mentally, but the slow process of agitation is still there and it may catch up in the future, particularly in metros it's happening. But why this change is happening in India from your point of view of observation?
Say the last question, last part of your question.
Last part of the question is Indians are also getting psychologically upset nowadays, particularly in metros. Okay? But I've seen it more dominating in most of the Western countries, particularly in US. Okay? Why this is happening in India, though we are spiritually, culturally, yoga-wise, everything was strong, why our youngsters are getting agitated slowly?
Doctor, I have a follow-up.
Parameshwaran,
if you want to paraphrase your question, is you're asking me why Westerners are more agitated and why spirituality is needed more in the West. Is that right?
No. Murli, the question here is not why Westerners require it more. The question here is, why do you think India is decaying? Why do you think, in spite of being culturally spiritually very rich. Why do you think India is showing symptoms of psychiatric illnesses? That is the question.
Oh, my very simple answer. My very simple answer would be, we have lost what is spirituality means. We have stopped understanding what it is, and it has been a global phenomenon, not just India or US specific. As much prevalence we have of psychiatric diseases, that much proportionately, I would say, there is lack of spirituality in that society. And when I say spirituality, I mean lack of connection between individuals and lack of connection within an individual between his spirit and the brain or mind. I'll pause. I'll pass this question for any other discussion, if you have any.
Doctor, my name is Satya Kiran. I'm a professor in Hyderabad, in a business school in Hyderabad. Just for the benefit of the audience here, I want to tell that the most popular course in Harvard University is a course called Positive Psychology, taught by Tal Ben-Shahar. It seems to me that unless an Ivy League institution gives its certificate of authenticity, we do not seem to believe in our own treasure trove of wisdom and knowledge. And I think the major problem with the Western society is they have got onto a hedonistic treadmill and they do not know how to get off it. And that is what is happening in India also. So I think we need a similar...
I'll cut you a little bit. You have completed your question. But the thing is, there are many researchers, many professionals who have identified spirituality as a problem and they are working. So instead of taking the bull right with the horn, they work with ideas of all those things. They work with humanities. They work with ideas of positive psychology or interpersonal or psychology. But what we need to do is push the bull, holding its horn against it. So the bull's eye is to get deep into the scripture. If you see the biggest, if I divide spirituality based or lack of spirituality induced problems, there are major problems. One is hardcore psychiatric problems like schizophrenia and mood disorders. The second problem is the social psychiatric problem. Once I say social psychiatric problem, everyone in this audience or everywhere should get an immediate thought of, is terrorism a problem? I would say yes. That's where the bull's eye should be met. The spirit or spirituality in clinical subjects, for example, in medicine, anywhere in medicine or psychiatry, you will not find anything written on what is a soul or what is a spirit. The knowledge of spirit and soul is in scriptures. Unless we study deeply scriptures, we will not move an inch to understand what is spirituality clinical use. And once an analytically trained clinician starts reading scriptures, he would understand much more than any non-scientifically educated religious professional scholar. So instead of, it's good that we should, that's where I would start, positive psychology or interpersonal psychology or transpersonal psychology. These are the available subjects. But having started from those, we should get deeper into understanding what is phenomenology. And beyond phenomenology is actual philosophy which is based or rooted in scriptures or spirituality. So there's a long distance that we need to all cross. If I made it clear, I'll take the question.
Yeah, Dr. Murli, I had another question for the many people from the academia over here. From a research point of view, how are you managing research from multiple university, multiple people, the funding angle, your time angle, how are you leading it? So if some of us here who are interested in doing a similar thing in a different area, so your thoughts on that from a meta approach, not the content part of the research, but the process of the research.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, okay, I'll start, I'll go backwards. The first thing is we need to have a classroom-based spiritual care training. And this training is my focus is on psychiatrists who would provide spiritual care to a pluralistic population. So as a Hindu chaplain or Hindu spiritual care provider, I would give care to a Muslim or a Christian. And similarly, a Christian chaplain would care for any number of patients whom he comes across. The patient could be Christian, Muslim, or Hindu, or Buddhist. Now, in India, in US, there are universities where people or scholars from different religious organizations are taught under the same roof. For example, I trained in Harvard, and along with me, there were Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, Muslims. All of them, they were studying all the methods of how to read scriptures and apply it in clinical care. In India, we don't have such an institution where different religions are not under one roof, number one. Number two is we don't have a clinical department in India. That is, we don't have any priest being trained how to treat a patient, how to provide care to a patient in a hospital. So when we build a department, okay, first I will start with the program, right? Short-term 3-month-long program. So once I have it, say in AIM, I would need people from different religious backgrounds, whether they are religious priests or whether they are clinicians or psychiatrists. For these, I need to go and search for people from different religious schools. So in India, what I did is I went and had a discussion with the Vice Chancellor of Lal Bahadur Shastri Sanskrit Vidyapeeth. I have a couple of students there. I went to Jamia Millia Islamia University. From there, I have students who are doing PhD in Islamic theology. Similarly, I have a couple of people from Christian school, Vidya Niketan. Is it Vidya Niketan? Vidya. So this is how I did. I personally met with these professors. I explained the project and explained how it's going to be a collaborative parallel project with what we are doing in US. They were all thrilled. I was really thrilled too that there was. And now I'm putting up all these people, including into a project today. I have a couple of professors in AIMS Psychiatry department who are willing to co-mentor these students.
Yeah.
So this is how I'm bringing people into the program.
Thank you, Doctor.
Second, it's funding. Funding is a tough thing, but I think I will not go to it. I think we have managed to a great extent, and I will not worry about it. There's a lot of charitable organizations who would support, or even corporates have some funding kept aside for social causes, educational. So I think I will draw from that.
Dr. Parameshwaran,
Answer?
yeah, thank you. I think you covered two angles. One, of course, is the content part of the research, and second is the process part of the research. By the virtue of being born in India, we are 130 crore PhDs in spirituality, or that's what we think. So I will let you go because the discussions can go on. There are some people who've shown specific interest in some questions. I will connect them offline to you. And I think it must be 9 p.m. there in Berkeley. I will let you go for dinner. A round of applause for Dr. Parameshwaran. Okay. And thank you very much for joining. Have a spiritually peaceful dinner. We will get in connection with you very soon. Thank you very much.